Hey everybody, today I'm going to give you 5 helpful ways to better manage flashbacks. Before we get into the content of this, I want you to understand what a flashback is. Now, a flashback is when we've had some sort of trauma in our life and we flash back to it mentally and it'll feel like it's happening to us all over again. These flashbacks can be triggered by any number of things, mostly pulling from our 5 senses, meaning we might smell something that triggers it, hear a voice that sounds very similar to maybe someone who abused us in the past. There can be a lot of different ways that these can be triggered. So let's get into the ways that we can better manage them. And number 1 is self-talk. And I know this sounds really strange, but when a flashback is happening, it's actually helpful for us to tell ourselves that we're having a flashback. Instead of letting it pull us completely back to that time and feel like it's happening again. I've heard from a lot of my clients and viewers that when they have multiple flashbacks and they happen over and over, we can often feel completely re-traumatized, like it actually is happening again. And so when we find ourselves in a flashback, do your best to fight and to say in your mind, this is just a flashback, this isn't happening again. I may feel like I'm unsafe, but I'm actually in a very safe space. Nothing bad is going to happen. And we can kind of talk ourselves through it, and it actually, we find, shortens the length of time that we're kept in that flashback. And the second tip is soothe yourself. Do something that feels really good to us. I know for many of you, you've told me that the trauma that you go back to in your flashback was something that happened when you were a child. And so we have to soothe that inner child. This could be anything from purchasing a weighted blanket. That can be really soothing to a lot of people. But depending on the trauma, that might not be good. It might be a warm bath. It might be putting on cozy clothes. It might be lighting a lavender candle, listening to soft music. Whatever it is, make sure that you're taking the time to soothe yourself, because coming out of a flashback, we can feel very fight or flight or freeze response. And so coming back into our body can really help. And the third tip, rolling right from the other, is grounding techniques to help bring us back into our body. And they encourage us to use our 5 senses. I actually talked a lot about this in a video that I did with Alexa. I'll put link in the description at the end of the video, but we talked about creating a resiliency box and ways that we can ground ourselves, aka bring us out of dissociation or flashback back into our present body and present state. And some options that she talked about were, oddly enough, sucky candies, because there's something about sucking and swallowing that's very calming to our nervous system. Also, movement of the neck, making eye contact with someone that we love and who cares for us. It can also be silly putty, keeping some kind of movement going. I would encourage you to re-watch that video, but also find different ways and grounding techniques that work for you. Some of my clients snap rubber bands, hold ice cubes, wiggle their toes. There could be a lot of different things that we do to help bring us back and pull us out of that flashback. And the fourth tip, and this is going to sound really icky, but I promise it helps, is allow yourself the time to grieve. Coming out of a flashback, so you can see I'm kind of going in order, right? As we get into the flashback, we tell ourselves it's just a flashback. Then we try to self-soothe and bring ourselves back. And now when we're out of the flashback, I would encourage you to take time to feel what has come up. Having flashbacks, as terrible and horrific as they can actually give our body and mind time to kind of process through some of that grief, some of that anger, some of that upset, some of that fear that we may have felt when it happened to us back then. And it gives us time now to think through it, process through it, and maybe even talk to a therapist or friend about it. Utilize this time to release those unexpressed feelings, because it's a great time to help you process through it so that hopefully these flashbacks happen less frequently. And the fifth and final tip is to work to prevent them from happening. Just like I said, we hope that they'll happen with less and less frequency. And the first part of this is recognizing the warning signs. What do we feel in our body? What do we think in our mind? Do we get sweaty palms? What is it that we experience before we go into a flashback? Do we start to feel ourselves slowly pull away? Like all of a sudden it's like a dream? What is it that you experience? If you've just had a flashback, I encourage you to think back on maybe how you felt in the couple of hours leading up to it. Take note of that so that we can treat it and work on it before we're into the flashback. That means we could use those grounding techniques a little bit quicker and maybe stop it from happening. And then the second is recognizing what triggers them. Is it situations, people? Is it certain sounds? Is it certain scents? Are there things that we can avoid so that they don't happen with such frequency? Or if we find ourselves in those situations, then we can come up with some coping skills from our therapist and the work that we're doing in therapy, because we're getting some help and support. What are the things that we can do if we find ourselves in those triggering situations to help us cope better so that the flashbacks don't occur? I hope you found that helpful. There are so many tools we can use to cope ahead or things we can do in the moment so that flashbacks happen with less frequency and hopefully stop happening altogether. As always, this video is brought to you by my Patreon patrons. Without the support of my Patreon account, I honestly couldn't keep doing what I do. So if you aren't aware of what it is, I will link it in the description. You can check it out. It's a way to support channels that you enjoy and help us continue to create the content that we love and hopefully that you love. And if you're new to my channel, click here to subscribe and make sure you turn on notifications. I put out videos twice a week and you don't want to miss them. And I will see you next time. Bye!